just how what we have started, how things have transpired. Never in the history of this school have students have the voice that they have now. And that was one of the things we were particularly concerned about. Students had no say-so over the affairs that govern them or affected them. You got a wonderful and a very bright president now because students also had a vote in that trustee board meeting. Never before. But this all started with us. All the facilities that you have now, we wanted a new dining hall. We wanted student union. We wanted better facilities. We wanted better dormitories. All of these things we were fighting for. And now we have it. 48 years later, we got it. We got it because of our efforts. And these efforts were continued, I should say, and are ongoing, I hope. Because whatever you get, if you're not careful, they'll take it back. So you don't own nothing unless you continue to stay vigilant and continue to fight for it. And that's pretty much what I have to say.
Even though we were part of SNCC, we weren't riotous. When we were sitting in, we were singing, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around." We were singing, we were peaceful, and I think we were very disrespectful. We were very disrespectful because one thing we knew that we had students behind us, and even I know Dr. Watkins had a job to do. He was afraid for all of us. So we helped Dr. Watkins. And we helped the professors that were over here teaching. We helped them too. But some of them could not acknowledge it.
I wanted to kind of talk about one incident that I particularly, and it came up in another presentation that I had done here a couple of weeks ago, and I think we forget because so much has happened. But I wanted to talk about how organized you guys were in terms of how we marched. You know what I mean? It was a strategy to everything, and people from the outside would have never known, but there was always a strategy involved. And this is the thing that I remember. I remember when we would go on marches, the men, the boys would march like 5 rows in. The women would be in the middle. And I remember on this particular march, we had gone down Jackson Street and were on our way. Remember that Doug McCants, we talked about this the other night. When we got almost to the corner, I guess Ripley, is that Ripley? Who was it? Yeah, Ripley Street. These guys came from nowhere on horses. And I mean, we just had no clue that this was happening. And they just pounced down on us where the boys protected us. That's right. They fell on top of us to protect us from the horses. When we looked up, Mr. Miller, who owned the store, the only store that was on campus at that time, was at the bottom of Jackson Street on your left, right at the basin. He owned that grocery store, and everybody on campus used that store. Who was on the horse? Mr. Miller was on the horse. He was a Ku Klux Klansman who we had supported. Listen, I had to tell you, we shut him down in an hour back in those days. And so it was these kinds of things. But I wanted to ask Doug and Dorothy if you would just expound a little more about the march itself and how we were able to move in and out and organize as many people as were on those marches during that time.
Well, I can tell you about some specific incidents that occurred right there on Jackson and High. I think it was to me a very heroic position that a young fellow from SNCC took. He got in a position because they were trying to get us to move, and he sat there Indian style, his arms closed as I have mine, and some rookie cop down the motorcycle that was trying to intimidate him, revving him up and what have you. So one of them decided that he wanted to charge this young fellow. I forget his name, I know you know him. And he took off toward him. And I was expecting to try to move. I thought he would move. But he held his position, and I thought that was quite heroic. And he actually bumped him with the motorcycle, and one of the police in charge snatched his officer off and removed him from the scene. That day, she was speaking of also that same day, when we continued that march, we come from Alabama State. I don't know, 300-400 less. We got to Washington Rivers, and the posse came out of nowhere and started attacking people with cattle prods and electric cattle prods, billy club, these canes that sheriff posse that used to carry. And then the females were caught out in the open, and the houses over there on River Street were kind of close together. You couldn't get a horse through there, that's for sure. So I started to grab girls and the females and pull them into safety. And that's how we escaped getting hurt. I think I got bumped or something like that.
But a lot of people got hurt.
A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people got hurt.
Got teeth out there, all kinds of
That's
stuff.
right. That was a bloody day. And I think that day you also were talking about when they were marching down to the courthouse and the people had to wait. What a lot of people remember, those who were here, it rained cats and dogs. People stood there for hours in that pouring rain.
And can I interject something in it? We stood out there, it was so cold, I never will forget, we were there at the courthouse down there on Washington Street Courthouse. And I remember Dr. King stayed in there so long, I mean hours, we stood there, our feet were numb. And I remember it was this old man said, Moses, I wish you come out here and let your people go.
And also, on that day when they beat us with those horses, Johnson, president, had just got on the television and said, "We shall overcome." And we thought that was a disgrace anyway. So when they beat us and we all ran different ways and people heard and we mad as you could ever think, came back, we made it back to Jackson High because that was our liberated territory. And I remember getting on the car, calling Johnson a liar and whatever, all the other names I could call him and whatever, and looked around. Here come Andrew Young with about 100 police, and all of them riot police coming toward us. Willie Ricks, y'all gotta break this up. And they charged us and pushed us back. And that made us even more mad with Andrew Young, and we were calling him Uncle Tom from that day on. And also when we took over Dexter Avenue Street Baptist Church, and in Belvedere too, SNCC, they was out there with the police trying to get us out. And it was Alabama State students, when I came up here on the campus and came back with the students, they brought a whole nother force and a whole nother fight. But Doug and Dorothy and just the students, and y'all got to just remember this little girl named Donna Smith. Y'all remember Donna Smith? Donna was a little, oh man, she's from Greenville, Alabama. That little girl was a great hero on this campus and just in the movement, and because they have organized Lowndes County and the Black Panthers down there and whatever, but Donna just continued to be a great little freedom fighter, and she died about a year ago from cancer. But Donna Smith, and when you talk about Doug and Dorothy, you got to say Donna, right?
Always. Thank you. Also, about that same day that you're talking about, the students have been beaten, really. For some reason, I was always not one of the ones that was going to be beaten because, as Doug said, the boys, they protected us. But on this very day here, and the one you're talking about, and this is that mimeograph copy as to who was at that meeting with the sheriff. I was the only female in there, and I remember vividly, all these men were sitting around, they were talking, and I'm there. And one thing I noticed about Dr. King, he never said a word in that meeting. Everybody else was trying to determine what was going to happen. But when the meeting was over, he came out and he spoke. I think you guys alluded to that in the first session. But he was the one, because he was Dr. Martin Luther King. And it was just a horrendous way that the students had been treated on Alabama State's campus.
Oh, yeah, remember when they came to campus, they put a lot of Alabama State students in prison, killed in prison.
I remember y'all going there. I just went to the jail.
Well, you got me put in jail. Dorothy Frazier out there, the white folks out there shooting, police out there shooting, she fainted.
I did.
I come out the crowd and start cutting the police, rubbing Dorothy, saying, y'all done shot this girl. And I started rubbing, I didn't feel no bullet hole. And by the time I look up, all the police standing over me. And they grabbed me and took me to kill the prison.
That was a bad day on campus. That was in front of, on the side of our council hall, the administration building.
But they definitely can't shoot.
I don't know if you have council hall anymore. But it was a bad day. But we accomplished a lot, and I am glad to see that Alabama State has improved tremendously. Still a lot of hope for improvement, but I like a new stadium. I think it's grand. But remember, all of it can be taken away. Just be very vigilant. Study hard. Get out of this institution and continue on your path. Because I know if it was not for Alabama State, I would not be where I am today.
Well, I just like to say thank you for inviting us over to share some of the stories that we have. Time will permit us to talk about everything, but the protest that we had here on campus at the time lasted about 2 weeks. Daily we were in touch with SNCC. They called us, actually I was with them all the time. Somebody, Fox, who was a legal person, Glenn, who was
Conley, the lawyer named Conley.
yeah, lawyer named Conley. We got out of jail. Also, we got arrested. I got arrested coming on campus with Glenn, and that's my most shout out there. This case went to the federal courts, and Judge Johnson, who gave the marching orders for the March of 65 for the settlement. He first stopped it, the injunction stopped it, then later on, he okayed it. After King and all of that, said that they would have Johnson with the federal government, soldiers, the National Guard, be federalized. Anyway, we went to federal court. I testified about what had occurred. There was a policeman who was in plain clothes that also was always there. I think he was the one who snatched the cop off the motorcycle that day. He was always there. He was in court that day. He corroborated my story. But we testified in federal court about what had occurred. So I had to put out of school along with some others. And Federal Judge Johnson reinstated us, not just me, because there were others. But we all got reinstated. That's a story that I'm sure some of you probably had not heard about. What else? These are just some of the things. I have to. Somebody has to kind of stimulate me to remember some of this stuff, because we're talking 48 years ago. And most of you are not even, not most of you, several of you not even close. But you'll get there hopefully. But these were the times, these were some tumultuous times. We were young, we thought we could conquer the world. Civil rights workers were, that was open season on them. You could always tell SNCC people because, I mean, they were always unkempt, they never ironed anything. They wear these not caveman, but farmers' overalls all the time. And you could always tell one from
What that shop?
Yeah.
What that shop in my own rock?
Yeah. One person, you can always tell a SNCC person from a SCLC person. SCLC person wore these overalls, but they were always starched.
Yeah.
But all these SNCC people, unkempt people, they were coming from all over. We didn't have cell phones at that time, so telephone calls were expensive. So SNCC was well-organized organization, well-oiled machine. They organized watch lines. And a lot of you wouldn't know anything what that, have any idea what that is, but it was like 800 number.
You can type it in, send
Yeah,
it
you
to
type it in, and Dr. Robinson had some of the transcripts, which he didn't give me, the ones that I was interested in particular, about conversations that were transcribed about what actually happened here on campus. And those records and conversations are important. I like to read it. I like to know what people are saying on the telephone. I didn't do anything about it. So, and 6 people were given about, I don't know, $35 a week for subsistence or something like that. 15.
$10 a week.
Yeah, when they could get that?
$9.64.
Yeah, it was always that.
$9.64.
So they fed all each other. They slept everywhere. We had an office up on High Street where all the people come in. That was the staging ground. And they would come in, had a little patio in the back. So we'd be out there all night talking. Always we had reports from New York Times, Rolling Stone magazine, all over Associated Press, United Press. Always something going on. George Farnham would come through. Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown. Everybody came through that office. People brought their sleeping bags. Everybody slept up there on the floor, wherever. People's homes and churches. I mean, those were times when people were living on subsistence. I'm talking specifically about the civil rights workers, and particularly the SNCC workers. The SNCC workers were young, militant, and they were never nonviolent, and they were never passive. Passive about reaction. SCLC probably, King and his organization probably helped them to maintain some semblance of calm, because they were never just willing to accept that kind of treatment. But SNCC people were probably a godsend for that particular time, because you sort of need it. Just like you need pepper in food, you also need some salt. Yeah. So SNCC was the fact. They were hot, they were militant, and they were talking the kind of language that we needed. We needed a divergence of opinion here. And they were from all kinds of ideologies. You had socialists, communists, pacifists, you name it. SNCC was filled with all these different kinds of people in terms of the ideologies that they subscribed to. So those were the times, and believe me, you had to live it. And I'm just happy I lived through it, and because so many of us didn't, so many people didn't. All this has led up to the point where hopefully ASU Interpretive Center will actually happen during my time. And I think you all need to all remember Catherine Light, who was the superintendent of the National Park Service. I think she passed on. Don't forget her. She was the catalyst. She's the person who moved this from square one to where we are now. We were already behind, 15, 20 years behind. She got it there. With her courage and her persistence. And I think you should make sure you have a plaque in that building once it's completed. And I hope all of us in here will get behind it, because I always felt that ASU should be the recipient of the Interpretive Center, simply because the partnership here would be lasting, as opposed to cutting the deal with the Senate. That's political. We don't want to get involved in that. This school will continue to be supported by the state. Could they accept the fact that the city might do so? Because, different people get elected, from time to time. So I think we need to fast forward that, push it, keep it in the news. Whatever we have to do, fundraisers, Congress, state, whatever's necessary. That needs to happen. We've been putting this off too long. I want to see it. I want to see it before I leave here. And I'm sure Doris and several others, and you as well, we all would like to see that, because this is something that we've been talking about for years. My personal opinion, it should only been one. Because not many people going to go into Knox County. They put it in the wrong place anyway. It looks like a rest stop. I don't know what they're doing in Selma. National Park Service is going to pretty much staff that place, but we'll have students which will have an opportunity to work there on we call them stipends and assistantships or internships, I should say. They have the park, National Park of Tuskegee. ASU needs its own. And I think that the Interpretive Center will really, once it's completed, will show actually what happened during that time frame, the civil rights period from 65, 64, 65, and earlier. And that center will draw people from all over. And since the ASU is a campus, college campus, we have people coming all the time. There will be a heck of a lot more visitors than you'll have in Selma and Mount Hall combined. I mean, $15 million, we need that right now here. And Lowndes County could have been combined. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not asking for anyone to agree with me, but I think that was not very well thought out.
Let's have some questions from the audience. Will. Questions from the audience, students, you've been so attentive. And this is history, and I'll tell you now, very worthwhile. And so we wait some of your questions. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, like, back then we were talking about inducting to different times where I guess people were more excited, a lot more energy, a lot more collective work because there was a problem, there was an issue that was very front-page. But nowadays, students are more lax because it's not so much front-page, not so much surface, it's more underground and more under wraps, so we're not seeing it as much. So I just want to ask you, how do you think that's going to shape our growing up? Because I know how it has shaped your growing up and progression in life. How do you think that our not dealing with that might shape us in a way? Do you think it have a negative effect, or do you think that we can come up and still be as collective and as organized?
Let me ask you something. How do you feel about ASU?
Alabama State University. I'm actually, this is my first time coming to Alabama State University, but
I mean, are you a freshman?
no, I go to Tuskegee.
Oh, you're from Tuskegee.
You don't think it's a surface,
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, it is another time. But sweetheart, nothing's changed. The fire, you know, some people have a fire, as they call it, in the belly. Some get it young, as I did. I was a child. Some get it as a teenager. Some get it as a young adult. Some get it when their hair is gray. But when you look at what's going on around you with Alabama, you live in Alabama, right? Look what's going on. I mean, voter suppression. Come on now. That's a problem. And then you look around the country. I just heard yesterday, some states are going to try to take away bathroom privileges if you have to stand in line too long to vote. Come on now. That's a problem.
I'd like to see the hands of the students who are registered voters. Okay. See, that's going to be the key. That is the key. You need to get the word out to your friends that history does repeat itself. And I see it on the horizon. And then until you empower yourself and not just vote for the president, but when you start voting see, that's why our local elections are as they are, is because, you know, we just put all our energies in that one vote. Whereas now, you're going to have to, every time it's time to vote, I think we got a primary, June 3rd. See, you need, every time that goes, you need to be there voting. Because that is the key. That has always been the key, and nothing's changed. And only you can change it.
Oh, and I'd like to also add to that, find out about the people you're voting for. Because they can always sell you or give you a wooden nickel, and you know we can't spend that. You need to educate yourself about who wants your vote. People have died, that's the ultimate. They've given their lives so we can vote. Now, and I don't quite understand it, but some people just don't vote. But if we get back to the point where they want you to start counting black-eyed peas in a jar, you know what I'm talking about? We're not going to count those peas in that jar or take a literacy test, even reciting the preamble of the Constitution. We're not gonna pass that. So to answer your question, nothing's changed. Get yourself educated, get your friends educated, get your family educated, learn about the person that wants your vote, and then go to a meeting and ask questions to this person and see if that's the person you want to represent you. Whether, you know, I'm not going to tell you what party, but I'm going to tell you, you need to know what party is for you and the party is not. Women's rights. Come on now. We got a lot of issues out here. Your Board of Education, your county commissioners, this is in the State House in particular. That's where all of these laws are passed. And if we're not careful, because when I look at the news and I see these red states, Alabama being one, and it seems like there's a lot of more other states trying to get red out here. You know, like I said earlier in the beginning, why should I get an education if I'm going to be a second-class citizen? No, that doesn't work for me. Same for you.
Yes, sir. I just, my brother was different, but I was taught that everything is different. And in my heart, I just know there's a resolution downtown about the interpretive center being here. I agree that they may have other places, and that's fine. But right now, Douglas said for years, we have waited and got the money and have the last. So I want to urge everybody here from Montgomery, and especially Douglas, you and the other participants, and you must to send a letter, a call down to the Montgomery City Council. The person that introduced the resolution was Councilman Tracy Locke. And I think that we should bombard his phone, and most especially that the city council and the mayor know that we think that they can do whatever they want to do anywhere else. But we've come into the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter, this was over. And nobody needs to
Help us understand that resolution and what is.
I don't understand the resolution.
Oh, okay.
I know that a resolution was introduced in the Montgomery City Council on Tuesday evening, and the resolution proposed that the interpretive center be moved. I think that we students of this university, I was a student from 6 years old over here, and the people were activists back then, and this university deserves to have a significant interpretive center, a place where the archives can be met. The students from here gave their blood and life and were expelled. Some people, like my brother Douglas, was blackballed because of this activity. And I think we owe a debt to those students. People parked at St. Jude, yeah. People did things everywhere. And everybody has the right to do anything, but this university has put blood, sweat, and tears and got millions of dollars for this interpretive center to be here. And I just wish you all would engage me. I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about everything, my brother. And everything is political, including the texture of the toilet tissue that you wipe your things.
Thank you for that information, sister. Some of us had missed that little piece. Thank you very much for that. Other questions from the audience? Yeah, right here.
My name is Denise Chapman, and I'm not from Montgomery. I'm from Fairfax, Virginia, Northern Virginia, PC, but I live here. But I was very disturbed not knowing and getting information what had actually happened here in Montgomery. Because it seems as though all the information that during the years now, I'm 84, it was Selma. Now, the only information that I remember receiving is about the bus. But just like the gentleman, I don't believe they're echoing his information. But it's a shame and a disgrace that that the world does not know what has happened in these southern black universities. And it's sad, and we really need to work on that.
One right here, young lady. Go ahead.
I have like a two-part question. One, I would like, I'm also a student, I'm a graduating senior, just
connection between, well, really Sammy Young, and how after the Voting Rights Act was passed, how it failed to be enforced, and how a lot of students died like Sammy Young and were killed because once the law was passed, an unjust law is no law at all. So it's like the law passed, but students still died because it wasn't enforced. And so we have the law, but people are marching to this day to keep the law because it's up for, it's in jeopardy right now. So I had a question about kind of the elaboration with like Sammy Young and how really all the schools kind of work together. But as a student of HBCU right now, a question that we're often asked is, are HBCUs relevant? And my question is like that's a question I'm always asked, and I want to have like more basis to defend my institution and other institutions. But it's like, if all this history happened, how can you ask us, are HBCUs relevant? Is the Constitution relevant? Because it's like, it existed. Like, how can we build a better case based on our history to show that we are relevant? Because it's not just we were historical because we were created for black education, but we stayed a constant force in history. And also, like, you can elaborate more on the occupations, because I just learned that Watkins was kidnapped, or whatever you want to say. The Tuskegee students also did that with Patterson, and then even again in the 90s with Peyton. So I know that was a lie, but that's what I feel.
Well, I say one thing. Things change pretty much to remain the same. And as I was speaking about how I happened to meet Timothy Mays and Dorothy Frazier. They were freshmen. I was a junior. But they saw something wrong. They saw injustice. They saw unfairness. They saw denial. We're being denied our rights here on this campus. It just so happened that it all was occurring along with the voting rights struggle at the same time. But, a giant step, can travel. But you got to make that first step. So you have to, as I mentioned, if you see something wrong, you just have to do it, make a step, try to change it. We'll always have to fight. Freedom is never free. And it doesn't belong to you unless you earn it. Occupy Wall Street. We're talking about the oligarchs and the people with all the money, and how you tell me how the man that's got $5 or $10 billion, why is he still trying to earn money? If he can earn $5 or $10 billion, why doesn't he use that same skill to fund some kind of opportunity for others, job-wise in particular? How much money do you need? How many houses do you need? How many cars do you need? This is a sickness, and it's getting worse. And Occupy Wall Street was trying to challenge that. Obama's talking about, $15 an hour wage or whatever. Listen, you will get nothing in this country unless you fight for it. No one's going to hand you anything. And we have to continue to fight. Protect our voting rights, protect all of our rights. Why do we have to go through this? We only have one Constitution. We're all citizens, so you can't deny me because of the color of my skin. But you take one person's rights away, then you're taking everyone's rights away. They were talking about voting for gay rights and bill to the marriage and what have you. Well, I don't care one way up. All I expect is that those who are of that persuasion get the same rights that I enjoy. It doesn't matter how I personally feel about it. They have the same rights as I have. And that's my argument about it. And I think it's the same thing, and that answers part of your question. You have rights, you fight for them. Nobody's going to give them to you.
That's true.
Let us express our appreciation to our panel. Let me do this, this could go on. We have to bring it to an end. Let me now just bring our Mr. Quarterback, Dr. Alvin Freeman, for any final remarks, or Dr. Howard Robinson there. But thank you so much. What a, you know,